Welcome back to our show. Well, it's political convention time. We're going to be seeing nothing on TV or little else but politics over the next couple of weeks. First, it's Tampa, where the Republicans will be in the Tampa area down in Florida. Then it'll be on to Charlotte for the Democrats. Interesting to watch. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes give and take and a lot of mystery in terms of some of the things going on in platforms and jockeying for position. Maybe if you're not that involved in politics, it doesn't interest you as much as it does someone like myself and many others of you that listen. But there is a lot of fascinating history to the conventions that take place. I've been to a number of conventions, both Democratic and Republican, in the capacity as a public official and someone covering those conventions by news. And I'll share a few thoughts with you, a few stories with you. My first convention was in 1964. I was a student at Tulane University down in New Orleans, going to law school, and I was driving up to New York, upper state New York, where I was a counselor at a teenage camp up there. And on my way, I went right through Atlantic City. Well, the convention was taking place. They had big signs and lots of publicity about it. And I said, gosh, I've never been to a convention. Let's drive over and see what we can find out, see what we can see. So I drove over to the convention. I had a Volkswagen convertible, about 200,000 miles on it, if I remember correctly. Drove up within about a half a block of the convention, parked my car, got out, walked up to the front door of the convention center. Guard said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yes, sir. I'm here with the Louisiana folks. I'm here to see my delegation from Louisiana." He said, "Well, are you with them?" And I kind of hemmed and hawed. Says, "Yeah, I'm with the Louisiana delegate." He said, "Well, go right on in." So I walked in and introduced myself to the Louisiana folks. I stood maybe 30 yards from Lyndon Johnson when the only mystery was who would he pick for vice president. He did pick Hubert Humphrey, standing right there at the time. Could not have been easier for anybody to get in. 4 years later, the Democratic Convention was in Chicago. Now, that was a whole different story. Vietnam War was just coming to an end. There was all types of confrontations and riots in the street. So I went up there with my wife, who had a roommate up in college. She wanted to go up and visit her, so we drove up, took my oldest daughter with us, who was about 1 year old. I went down to the convention. And again, it was just complete chaos down there at the Hilton Hotel, right across from the big park in downtown Chicago. And I was having dinner with a friend of mine in a particular hotel that had a downstairs in the basement dining room. We were sitting there talking, and I looked up on the stairway, and I could see this fog rolling down the stairs. Well, I knew right away from my military experience that the fog coming down there was not just a normal fog, but it was gas, nerve gas, gas that was coming down there, tear gas. And so quickly, I had about a half a filet in my plate. I picked it up and put it over my nose so that I could breathe, ran up the stairs, and got out of that tear gas. And it was quite a spectacle from 4 years earlier to this particular convention going on. Then I remember in 1988 at the Superdome down in New Orleans, I had a friend of mine that had one of the big box suites there where you watched all the Saints and the football games. And I was in the suite by myself. I'd gotten the key and he'd given it to me. I was sitting there by myself watching all of the flow on the convention floor. It was a knockdown, drag-out contest between Senator Bob Dole from Kansas and senior George Bush, who was then vice president. Bush got the nomination, and it was close to the time he was going to speak. Well, my door opened, and there was Senator Bob Dole. And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just was looking for a place to rest. I must have come in the wrong suite." Well, I was trying to be gracious. I never knew Dole at all. I said, "Senator, come on in. Come on, you're welcome here." Asked me if I had a drink, and I fixed him, I think, a little bourbon maybe. I'm not sure what I fixed him. He sat down. We had a nice visit. And he told me at the time, he said, President Bush, or the Vice President Bush, then made that statement at the convention, "Read my lips, no new taxes." And he said, "That's a mistake. That's a mistake, Jim. That's going to come back and haunt him." And of course it did. It led to Bill Clinton coming back and being elected as president 4 years later in a cantankerous election. So those were some of my memories of the convention. We'll be broadcasting with guests coming on in Tampa and also over in Charlotte for the Democratic Convention to kind of keep you posted as to all that's going on. Going to be interesting, and it's certainly going to have an effect. Mitt Romney, I think, needs a better convention, quite frankly. He's had a tough week. I wrote about it in my column this week. You can go to the website at www.jimbrownusa.com and see the column I wrote. And things were not in his full control, things that affected the image of the Republican Party, the skinny dipping by all the Republican congressmen over in the Sea of Galilee, and then the congressman from Missouri that made the statement, the outrageous statement about illegal versus legal rape. None of those things is helping Romney, so he needs a good speech, needs to rise to the occasion to get back in this race. So we'll be watching and talking about it a good bit, and I'll come back right after this message.